Hey, good morning, Jake. Good morning, Shrek. How you doing this morning?
Good, man. How are you guys?
Good. All
Got a big smile on that face, Will. I like it.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of coffee this morning, so I'm hyped. Plus, we're going to be talking about guns and shooting, and that always gets me a little bit excited.
Right on, right on.
What red-blooded American doesn't get excited, right?
I guess there's some out there, but I don't know.
I don't know of any. I mean, I know my mom, and that's about it.
All right, so welcome to episode 62 of the Coffee Squad podcast. Today, Jake and I are joined by John Shrek McPhee, aka the Sheriff of Baghdad. We are going to be talking a little bit about the importance of firearms training, John's SOB tactical and his career path and his life, and all things considered awesome. So. The U.S. Army spent, 21 years, a little over 20 years?
Yeah, man.
Special operations?
Yeah, all 20.
Yeah, so in serving in multiple theaters during that time, after leaving the military, John created SOB Tactical that helps people, law enforcement, special operators improve shooting skills and security. And since we are talking about firearms training and mindset and stuff like that, who better than have the Sheriff of Baghdad come on and talk to us?
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Did I miss anything?
No, that sounded good. Yeah. Yeah, that was all good. Look, for your guys, like, hey, my name's John McPhee. Yeah, I did 20 years. I was a Ranger. I was a Special Forces guy, Green Beret, whatever you want to call it. And I was a unit guy. And, I did my 20 years. I retired as a Sergeant Major, which was the reason why I retired. I wasn't a very good Sergeant Major because I didn't like being one. So if you ever hear I was a bad Sergeant Major, it's probably true. And I was a dickhead all the time to everybody, man. It was just time, man. I would say this with the Sergeant Major thing. I went from, coming from Baghdad, doing real work every night to, hey, you're going to be the money Sergeant Major. I'm like, what? I don't know nothing about the money. Like, I don't care, right? And then drove me crazy. But
not only that, you have to keep the books for 5+ years, right? Or 10 years. I still think I have my money books somewhere in my attic tucked away. I'm like, every once in a while, whenever I go up there, it's like, oh, nope, still got to keep these damn things,
man. Yeah. Anyway, so. Yeah, man, I did my 20 years. When I got out, I did a little bit of contracting, and then I just kind of started teaching classes, and it went from just teaching a couple a year to, fuck, man, I'm on the road all the time. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of a victim of my own success. I got no complaints.
There you go.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I honestly, like, in my eyes, with my military, there isn't probably better teachers out there than guys with your background.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
And so whenever people ask, like, hey, who? I always point them, to people like you. Probably are, in the military, there are better shots than guys that come from the unit. So,
yeah.
Look, all things being equal, right? Like, I consider all special operations infantry that has a little more leeway, right?
That's all it is.
In my opinion, essentially everyone in the military is a grunt, right? Infantry, special forces, Rangers, the unit, it's all kind of grunt work. None of it's really hard. Could be a little technical, maybe more technical than average infantry, but if you kind of keep that mindset, like,
yeah,
you do it for enough years, of course you're going to get better at it.
Yeah. I know one thing that I noticed when I was in the 82nd way back in the day, first brigade. But the SF unit, even the Rangers, they seem to get a lot more training as specialized training. Well, even firearms training than even the 82nd did. So I know that when I was in, anyways, that's how it was.
Yeah, I fired myself in one day more javelin missiles than the 82nd Airborne got allotted in a year. And the reason I know that is some general pulled over as I was shooting them. They yelled at us. I don't know who the fuck you think you are, but you just shot more ammo. And it was like, why is this general yelling at us? Like, and I just got done looking through the clue, you know, you know what I mean? And I'm like, the fuck is this guy yelling at us for? Like, we're not even in the 82nd. Like,
You know, that's called, man. That's called jealousy right there.
Yeah, and you know, I love the SF guys. They're like, "Hey, Bob, what's this guy yelling about?" You know?
Yeah, I'll tell you another back in the day story. We used to do like a family picnic day, and I got tasks with. I had to shoot the Mark 19. I was on a like a rifle range, and you know how the rifle range gets farther away. There's like the little berms. So I was on like the back berm, and about 100 yards in front of us, they stacked cars. Had to be like 10, 9, 8, 7, like
awesome.
This huge pyramid, right? And so they're like, my job was any children or family members that wanted to shoot a Mark 19, I made sure they safely shot the Mark 19 100 yards at a pyramid of cars. My 2-year-old at the time, like I would get behind the machine gun, I put my thumbs on the butterfly, right? And he was so little he couldn't push the butterfly himself. He wasn't strong enough. Yeah. So I put my thumbs on it, and he'd have his little hands on my thumbs, and he'd push my thumbs down, and I'd shoot it every time he wanted me to shoot.
That's so awesome.
He shot more 40 Mike at the family picnic than the 82nd got all year.
Probably.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Side note, they forgot to drain the cars, and we had a massive fire. We were just shooting with the fire.
That is awesome.
It's like the best day ever. And then everybody's like, you burned the range down. I'm like, you know, I got blamed for it, but it was like, well, I was just the guy that I didn't
stack the cars.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, that's not my job.
That's awesome. Those family days were awesome. I don't know if they do them anymore. I mean, they do other stuff. I think, you know, the risk aversion and all that stuff. I remember teaching little kids like the minigun, right? That was like the hot item. Everyone
totally. Like everybody would just go to the minigun station.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would. By the way,
I love that gun.
Yeah,
who doesn't?
You know, a lot of guys don't like them. Like team guys don't like them because like, oh, they jam all the time. Like, dude, you just don't know what you're doing, man.
Dude, I'll tell you, so guys were running them onesie twosies in fleets, right?
Mm-hmm.
I ran a fleet of out of 6 trucks. I ran 3 of them, and we had the engineers dig a pit in the yard. So we would drive down into the pit. So the nose, it was like a 45-degree angle down. You know what I mean? We'd live fire it into the dirt. We'd back up out of there. As we did that every day, and then we made that right at the house. You know what I mean? As we did that every day, like we didn't have any trouble. And I'll tell you this about the minigun: you can go into Solder City all you want. You could shoot, 240s. You can shoot 50 cal. Shoot whatever guns you want. No one is going to stop shooting because they don't give a fuck. You go in there, take a little fire with the vehicles, and then later open up with the miniguns. It's the only time I ever heard Solder City quiet. It was like, wow, they really don't like the minigun. You know what I mean? Like
Afghans would call it the dragon's breath.
Yeah.
So a pistol, it was weird. A pistol got more attention than your M4 or any of your automatic weapons. Anytime, like for some reason they were terrified of pistols, and then the minigun. Those were like the 2 things that they always like. These dudes aren't messing around.
Yeah, that's because every 10-year-old owns an AK, right? Like it's old news, but you got a pistol. Like, whoa, what's going on here, right?
Yeah. So, well, let's jump into the topic. Firearms training and why it's important. And we tried to have you on, John, but your travel schedule was so slammed in the beginning when we were doing the 101 series. And so it's great to have you on. And I think it's actually really good because we're starting to see more and more states. I shouldn't say, well, there are more and more states increasing the constitutional carry, which means more and more people are allowed to exercise their constitutional right to carry a firearm. And Will and I have talked on this show with other people, just because it's your right doesn't mean necessarily that you should. And if you do decide to carry a firearm, and I'm sure you're going to tell us plenty of stories with SOB Tactical and your training side of like some people just shouldn't carry a gun because they just don't have the mental aptitude to carry it. And so I think we're going to talk about, guns and how to train safely. And then of course, Shrek, you talk about what you do and what you've seen. Look, you're in the gun game. I'm out of it. I do security consulting now. But like Will, I love talking about guns, and I think guns are such a huge thing in this country. And so let's talk about how to train safely and properly with them and where they can find about how to get training and that kind of stuff. So,
So gun safety, man. I'm on the range almost every day. I'm teaching classes. I've been doing this. I've been doing video diagnostic classes for a decade now, where I just use video, see what you do, right, and then give you those couple things you need to get instantly much better. The video shows that, right?
So can you talk just a little bit about like that video diagnostic and like, for that average person out there, like, why is that good to do?
Yeah. So, the video diagnostic, when I started it, I was like the first person out of anyone I knew to get an iPhone. And it was one of them deals like, I think I just got like a Razor. Like I only had, I didn't have a cell phone until I think like 2005, 2006 sometimes, right? So I had a cell phone, but like I didn't do shit with it, right? Because I was still kind of, landlines, chalkboards. We did paperwork, the computer in the team room was the only print the packing list. Like we didn't do anything with it, right? So I would say I come from like an older school era. And then when I got the iPhone, I downloaded that Coach's Eye app, and I was just like, when I downloaded it, I was thinking, man, like I need to do this with everything I do just so I see the truth of what I do. You know what I mean? And I know like, the unit has indoor shoot houses, and there's been a couple times where we were doing CQB or something. And one day, this is what made me think I need to film everything I do. We're in a shoot house, and my troop sergeant major's like, hey, come down to the control office. And I was like, dang, I've done a ton of shit in the shoot house. I didn't know it had an intercom system. You know what I mean? And so I guess I'm going to the control room because my boss just busted me out in front of everybody in the shoot house.
Going to see the principal.
I go down there, and it's the old little black and white TVs. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the best it was back then. Anyway. He replayed, and it was VHS tapes, by the way, and he replayed me in the room, and he's like, hey, did you do this? And I was like, I didn't do that. And when he replayed the video, I exactly did that. And I was like, how could I feel down to my core that I didn't do that? I'm not trying to hide, or I'll own it, for sure, but how could I feel down to my core that I didn't do that when I'm watching myself do it on the video and I know better, right? And I know, and what I had to realize was, I think, your brain thinks you're the world champ at anything you do. And until you show it, like, no, I look like more like Barney Fife than world champion. Right. When the brain goes, holy shit, we actually look like Barney Fife. This is when you can start that training path to getting better. You know what I mean?
100%.
You gotta know what it looks like. You gotta know that, right? So with the video, I'll videotape everybody. I'll have them shoot this little drill I do. It's kind of simple, just 3 rounds. I'll videotape it, and then I go through the videos, and we'll see what we see. And I'll tell you this, with a brand new shooter, I get a lot of single moms, they bought a gun, they live alone, after coming off a summer of protest and then canceling the police and then quarantine, crimes through the roof. Like people who have never bought guns before are buying guns and coming to my classes, right? Like, and it's outside the norm. Most of the times I get guys who want to train, to defend their families or something, but I've been getting more new shooters, right? And in a couple videos, I can make a new shooter as good as anyone around him in a couple videos, if not better than everyone around him. And the reason I'd say that is, on a scale of 1 to 10, everybody thinks the good shooters are like 5 to 7s. You know what I mean? On a scale of 1 to 10. You know what I mean? Because everyone knows like 8 to 9, like that's pro shit, you know? So, 5 to 7 is what the average person, or, someone who might compete once in a while, that's where they think they are. And what the video showed me is those people are probably a 2 or 3. However, if you were a 5 to 7, truly, you'd be better than anyone you shoot with. So just a couple lessons I could show you. It's funny. The naked eye can only catch so much. So the video, when I go frame by frame, you'll see shit happen that you're like, I slow that video down. Like when we play at normal speed, it's like, how'd it look? You're like, yeah, it looked pretty good. And then I play it at slow-mo and you'll just cringe like, oh, he's about to play my video. No.
Yep.
Just press play. I already know what I fucked up, right? So it's a great way to keep the brain accountable of what you do. Now, as for the safety aspect with this, I mean, think about this. In maybe, in 3 video sessions, that's all dry fire. You don't have to shoot one round. What I've done in the past, and this is even on my member site, is I kind of mimic a range session and what it looks like in an indoor range, and I mimic what an outdoor range session would look like, because safety rules. The NRA, right, pretty much the gold standard for safety in the industry, says there's 4 safety rules. And I completely and wholeheartedly disagree, right? I think I have about 11 rules. Yeah. However, the 4 should be like viewed as laws, like don't break these laws. Because if you don't break one of those laws, you're probably never going to have a bad accident with a firearm of any type, right? Nothing will ever happen if you just follow those. But there's more that are tips and tricks that could get you, if you follow these little tips or tricks as well in the rules, you're probably not going to see that. But what no one gets, no matter how safety conscious we like to be, what no one gets is how to conduct the range session at the range we're at and how they expect you to do it. And every range is different. Right. Yep. And so if I just gave you, and just in dry fire, I gave you a couple moves, I showed you a little better how to hold the gun, take the gun out of the case, set it on the counter, right? Like if you're in an indoor range, I talked you through that. I walked you through that a couple times. By the time you go to the range, you'll at least look like, you may have never done it before, but you look like everyone else. You look like you're safe, i.e. you're probably going to get left alone, right? So you can shoot and have a decent experience.
Yep.
I would say, on that, just a lot of people just don't know. A lot of people, I never touched a gun until I was 26 and I joined the military. My mom was a hippy dippy anti-gun, like don't touch them, that kind of garbage. And I remember like first time touching it, like being scared and nervous, like, cause you don't want to screw it up. And so what I try to tell people is like, hey man, just breathe. Just breathe. Just don't point this damn thing at you or anyone else. Be very conscious of it and just breathe. And then we'll walk through it and we'll go through it. And so I like your methodology, right? And for people to go to your app, you have so much information on their app that they can just go to and look at, right? And do, and it's, I hate to say it, Shrek, but it's free. A lot of stuff you have out there, it's just good knowledge. Just, you're just doing your part to give to people. So, you're talking about the single moms out there, and I just pulled up a stat from, this is coming from FBI.gov, but this NICS firearm background checks for the year. And it goes all the way back to 98 to April of 2021. So if we look at April of 2020 last year, there are a little over 2.9 million firearm background checks last year for April. This year, April, a little over 3.5 million. And if you look at the last, I think it's been 16 months of a steady, huge increase. If you look at January of 21 versus January 2020, 2020 was 2.7, a little over 2.7 million. 21 was a little over 4.3 million. So nearly doubled in January. So a lot more people are getting guns, and we're seeing this. I don't know if you're seeing it, John, but a lot of people asking like, hey, I want to buy a gun. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure.
Yeah.
Everything you mentioned, right? You had COVID, you had people sitting behind a desk. Whatever the reasons are, they have these tools, these weapons now. And so my thing is like, love sending them to you, love them to send them like, to my other buddies who are tier 1 operators, like, hey, go to these guys. If you want to learn how to shoot and get good at it
the right way.
It's not just like go to, and be careful too. There's a lot of wonky crap out there on the internet. There's some Facebook posts that my buddies and I are on, and you always see once a week of like this wannabe ninja dude teaching some wazoo crap. I'm like, that's going to get you killed.
Yeah.
Oh man, I've had guys ask me, like, they come to my training and they're like, man, this is so much better way to train with the video. Like, why aren't you the #1 trainer? And it boils down to one simple thing. All those videos you see on Instagram that get some millions of hits and likes, like, that's exactly probably what you shouldn't do most of the time. That's why I'm not making those videos.
Yeah.
And if you showed someone the basics, like, there wouldn't be much to see in the video.
I think that's the thing. I think that's a great point, right? And you brought it up, right? We're all special operators. We're nothing more than, I don't want to say highly trained infantry. We just spend more time training. And it's the basics and the basics. All we do is the basics, and we do them until we get them right. I think people expect to hear, oh, special operator, oh, I'm going to do this like tuck and roll, this James Bond or, some movie crap that they see. And the reality is like, that's not real life. It's so simple and basic.
You guys probably shot more in one rotation of your like firearms training than I did my whole career in the 82nd.
Yeah, for sure.
Like 10,000 rounds a day for a team of 8 dudes.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, compared to what we shot.
That's a lot of ammo, man.
So where John came through, they shot more where they came from his unit than the whole entire army combined.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we used to, we were the only ones slinging that lead. You know what I mean? Like in the mid 90s, the Bill Clinton years, you know what I mean? Like, I think we were the only ones with bullets.
So talk to us about
80 seconds literally shot at me.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the name, the Sheriff of Baghdad. And then I kind of want to talk about more about what you do a little bit. And we are all over the place, man. I think this is where you see like all of our ADHD or ADD, whatever you want to call it these days, man. But
hey, this is every conversation I have with my buddy.
Yeah. So the Sheriff of Baghdad, how'd you get that title? Tell us what you can about it. And then,
yeah, man. Look, when I was a sergeant major, there was a guy, he worked for the State Department, and he ran the Crisis Action Center in the State Department for the State Department, which pays a fuck ton of money for these guys, right? And then, so while he was doing it, he made these T-shirts, and it had on the front, it was a circle, and it was like the U.S. Embassy logo for Baghdad, right? And on the back, across the shoulders, really big, it said Sheriff. And then under that, it said of Baghdad, right? Kind of small. And then smaller than that, it said serving strategic policy, one citizen at a time. So he made these in like Kelly green with yellow or brown, like chocolate brown with yellow, right? He made these T-shirts. So this guy, we hire him. He works in where I worked. So he was like, he comes in my office one day. He's like, hey, Sergeant Major, what size are you? I'm like, I don't know, double, triple X, right? Like, depends on the shirt. He's like, I got a ton of old double, triple X T-shirts. They're new. No one ever wore them. You think you'd wear them? And like, like when you wear civilian clothes to work out or jujitsu or like, man.
Everything.
You ruin T-shirts. So I'm like, dude, I'll take as many T-shirts as you give me. Keeps me from having to buy them. Just ruin them anyway. So he gave me these T-shirts. It's a Sheriff of Baghdad T-shirt. So I wore them every time. Like, this was like the beginning of CrossFit. I'd wear them when we do CrossFit. I wore them in the dojo. I just had so many. I just kind of like every time I worked out or there was a chance where like this could fuck up a T-shirt, I wore those.
Yeah.
And then like dudes just got used to me always wearing those. And then you know, we go to matches, and when my buddies would be like, "Hey, wear that Sheriff of Baghdad shirt," you know what I mean? And I'd be like, "Okay, right." So I wore it to matches, and then, you know, people are like, "Hey, you're that Sheriff of Baghdad guy from the fucking t-shirts this guy gave me." And then, you know, when I had to have a business name, right? Like, because unless you want to get raped on taxes, you need to own a business.
Mhm.
So, you know, I get my business license, and I needed a name. And one of my good friends, he's a big business guy, and he's like, he knows a lot about business. Like, if I was going to talk to someone about business, it's a guy like that. You know what I mean? And I was like, "Hey, man, I need a business name. Like, when I do this, you know, corporation paperwork stuff, like, what do you think?" He's like, "Are you kidding me? You're the fucking Sheriff of Baghdad. That's the funniest shit I ever heard. If that's not your business name, you're wasting time, man. Like, you're the
Yeah.
fucking Sheriff of Baghdad, and that's funny." And I was like, I could name a business that? Like, I never named a business before, right? So I was like, okay. So I did what he said, right? And it seemed to work out pretty good for me.
Well, it's cool. And now you got Team SOB, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, people are thinking of another,
Yeah,
like,
another SOB.
like,
Yeah.
but like what the, so to me, it draws you in, right? When Scott told me about you,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, download the app, Team SOB," and I was like, "Yeah, like, come on, man! Like, what is it really?" He's like, "No, seriously, download Team SOB."
Yeah.
And so there it is. You know, there's the app out there, and
yeah,
it's
man.
great.
So, look, I create a membership site. I've been doing the membership thing since, oh man, maybe 14. I had an online membership, right? I mean, before memberships were even kind of popular, I was kind of doing it. And look, what I really wanted was a paywall, right? The barrier to entry, right? And this is, look, when you give shit away for free on YouTube, you got to take whatever comes your way. You know what I mean? And I know, look, I'm looking at those super cool gun guy videos where real dudes are like, "Why the fuck would you do this?" You know? So, you know, I kind of see that stuff all the time. And so I made the membership, and then with the membership, like, the members started to become friends, right? And then everyone started to hang out. And now, like, dude, we got this community where I go to cities, we'll have member dinners. I'll have, in almost any random city, I'll have 10 guys come to dinner to eat dinner with me, you know? And we've built this community, and these guys like each other. And then within the group, once the community kind of formed within the group, guys are like, "Hey, you know, my job is actually, I paint guns. If you need anything painted, I'll give you a discount because you're in the group." Or some
Yeah.
guys sell ammo, some guys have FFLs, they have gun shops. So it's like, it's kind of weird how well we built this community, right? And then so the Team SOB comes from kind of two things. It comes from that, right? But the you know, the lighthouse of the blind, you know, the blind, the rumor is in the Army, blind people make all the pens, and they make all the, right, that's actually true. And they make some of my products. I have them make my products, right? And they're great to work with. You know, they're all blind. Matter of fact, the first time I met the manager of my project, he walked into a bar, he crushed a ton of whiskey with me, and I was like, "You're blind?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he goes, and he was getting ready to go home, and like, you wouldn't know he was blind, but he's blind, man. Like, and then he drank with us, and he's like, "Hey, man, I gotta go. We gotta get up early tomorrow, right?" So I was like, "Hey, can we get you an Uber or something?" He's like, "I've been walking these streets for 35 years," or whatever he told me. And he walked off, and I was like,
"Oh, I thought you were gonna be like, no, man, he hopped in his car and just drove."
That's what I was waiting for.
Like,
No, I got to drive
that's
home.
awesome.
No, he fucking walked off. No cane, no nothing, man. Like, but anyway, so the
That's
blind
awesome.
guys every year, and this is where the Team SOB sweatshirts and shirts, and this is where you see all that stuff, is every year when we make these shirts, I don't make any profit off t-shirts. Like, it's kind of not my business. So we do this, we order through Custom Ink. You could order a Team SOB shirt, and it's whatever it costs. and then they donate whatever money, like per shirt or whatever, they donate the rest of the money. I donate money to the blind guys. And so we did a team SOB. So I told the members, we made a ton of team SOB stuff. Well, we donated, I think I bought like $300 of like hoodies. Like, why shouldn't I be wearing my own shit, right? So I bought a bunch, right? And then they rappel off the 8-story building in, I think, Lancaster, Pennsylvania every year. So I had the members meet me. A few of us rappelled off the building, right? And it kind of like just added to the community that had been built, and just,
awesome.
Traveling to cities and having the membership. And it's kind of amazing. It's been the best gun group I've ever been part of. And it boils down to some simple rules. Like, look, everybody here is real people. They have real opinions. Like, we can agree and we can disagree and be friends. We can agree and be friends. You know what I mean? Like, so
that's life. We try to keep politics off this show because I don't think you ever win with politics. It's like talking about religion. You're not going to change anyone's mind over religion, just like you're not going to change really anyone's mind over politics. But I think, the little bit we do talk about on this show is like, I think most of America is that way. When we had the elections and everything going on, like I would say 40% of my neighborhood was, one side or the other. But Halloween, people were over in my backyard. We're all hanging out. And I heard the different conversations. Who you voting for, right? In my yard, there was a Trump sign. And in my neighbor's yard, there was a Biden sign, right?
Yeah.
I don't dislike her. Hey, that's her choice. And I think, like you said, whether it's guns, whatever, let's talk. And I think that's the problem with this damn country right now is people don't know how to talk anymore. Or they do know how to talk, but the news makes it seem like no one knows how to talk.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I would add this. I think it's two things. The first thing is people get emotionally attached to their politicians.
Yep.
The worst thing you could do is get emotionally attached to that. And I think the next thing is when our government, and I think Trump did this, and I think Trump fucked us over forever, right? And what he did was he just said it like it was on the news. If he thinks it's terrible, he says it's terrible, right? No one in politics talks like that. So he drove the news cycle. Mm-hmm. News ratings go through the roof. So the news now is like, how do we replicate this every day? Well, so I think
crisis after crisis.
Yeah. So I think our politics has become the biggest reality show ever, like the Truman Show or something. But it's on every channel all the time. You can't escape it.
It's psychological operations, man. That's what I tell everyone.
And then people emotionally tie to it, and now they're fighting each other. And my point with all the politicians, they don't give a fuck about you. Mm-hmm. They don't care about the people. They're just fucking doing their dirty.
They want to maintain their power. They want to maintain their power.
They've gone from representing to ruling.
Yeah. Correct. So we kind of got off track there a little bit. So let's talk about mindset a little bit. We kind of touched on this just a little bit, but so the followers of the show, all shapes and sizes, right?
Yeah.
Buddies that are pro surfers out in California, real estate agents, to guys like you and I, right, with a crap ton of training out there. But what's the mindset, right? Let's talk to the entry level, that real estate or that soccer mom or that surfer out in California who's like, you know what? I don't like the way things are going. I don't feel safe. What kind of mindset should I have or should I have when I go to purchase that gun and when I go to the range and the tips and tricks?
Yeah. Okay. So, look, the mindset, something you won't hear is, I think it's probably more now, but before quarantine in the United States, 2.5 million times a year, a regular person pulls the gun in the home or somewhere on a bad guy, and crime does not happen. Right. And I think it's really underestimated how many times this thing happens. So, this is simple to me. And look, people may not like guns. It boils down to this, right? Is you don't lock your doors to keep people out. You lock your doors to keep everyone you love safe. right? And this is what a pistol would do also. And I would say this is like, look, the firearm, and this is a saying that goes throughout time, is it's the great equalizer amongst men or women or size or strength, or it's the equalizer, right? So if you wanted to keep your family safe, it's probably smart to have a weapon in the house that is this is the fallback plan. This is, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is the 10 of the home invasions. You would have to go do this. But why are you doing this? Right? To possibly save the people you love inside your house's lives, right? So I think that would be the mindset of how you get a gun and justify why you would have it in your home. And I think that's most people, the justification to have it, right? They're like, well, there's police, and and there's generally no crime, and look, I get it, but just in case, wouldn't you rather have than not, So I think that's the having the gun. Now, once you get a gun, you're going to have to get proficient with it, right? I mean, think about this. I tell this to people all the time. You are going to, in the worst situation of your life, pull this thing out. Adrenaline dumped, emotion, you name it, add it into the situation, make it as complex as humanly possible, because that's what this is going to be, right? With your family on the balance or your life on the balance. And you're going to pull this out and you think it's just going to all go swimmingly because you purchased it and you have it in the closet. And the truth is no, right? It's not. And so what I would say is look, there's a lot of regular people come to my classes that they just come to my class once a year. It gives them a tune-up. It gets them good enough to where they could get it out, shoot it, right? And that's it. And so there's people that every year they come to me for one class is just a tune-up with their house firearm. And look, and that's okay. So a lot of times in the modern day, today's day and age, 2021, a lot of times people think they could buy a piece of gear that would instantly be game changer for firearm. And the truth is, I would tell you, buy a regular firearm. Don't spend any money on it, right? Like, don't buy Gucci parts or nothing for it. Leave it alone. You store it, right? Once a year, maybe you maintain it, you oil it, you keep it in the home, you keep it functioning. And you spend any money you think you need on gear for that to get better, you spend that money on training.
Well, when you're in a stressful situation, you revert back to your training and muscle memory. That's why the military and law enforcement train so much, or they should train a lot with their firearms, and they get proficient with it. See, I kind of equate it to having a car. Before you got your driver's license, you had to learn how to use that car, and you become proficient with it. You have to do it every day. Now, obviously, I know not everybody can shoot every day like you can. I wish I could. Ammo prices are out the roof right now, so
it's hot. I don't want to shoot either.
But I mean, I'm not going to get my 15-year-old daughter a car and say, okay, you're good. Just drive it whenever you want. I'm going to make sure she knows how to do it and is trained to do it before she goes off and does it. So,
and I think with that car analogy is a good thing too. I don't know, John, if you get this, and Will, you as a SWAT officer, like people ask me like, oh, what gun should I buy? Yeah. I just have my physical therapist. She had like 2 incidents happen within like 4 or 5 days of each other. Right. She's like, I need to go get a gun. I'm like, stop, pump the brakes. I'm not saying don't get a gun. She's like, well, just tell me which one. I'll go buy a Glock 19. I was like, guns aren't that way. Guns to me are, and I'm a man and I like women. So guns to me are like women. Some like tall, skinny, some like big and fat, and then there's everything in between. So to me, before you go and purchase that, go to a gun range that has multiple pistols and guns that you're looking at that you can buy, and go try it out. See how it fits in that hand. See how well you do.
Yep.
Before you go slap $500, $600, $800. And like John's saying, like I see so many buddies of mine, they can afford it. Like, oh, I'm going to put this trigger in and that trigger in and this optic and that optic. I was like, just shoot with iron sights. I remember getting ready to go to Sodekar our sniper school. I was in Peru. I took all of my optics off my gun because I had to shoot to get in. You had to shoot with iron sights.
Yeah, you got to start with irons.
Yeah, and so I got really, really good with iron sights. That's all I would shoot for like my last 3 or 4 months while I was in Peru. Was just iron sights, iron sights, iron sights, and I was actually able to keep up with my buddies once I got good enough and proficient enough that were rocking the EOTech.
Yeah.
And so, like John's saying, man, it's the basics. And that mindset, I mean, you talked a little bit about that mindset. It's everybody. How do you want to protect yourself? You can go to YouTube today and go pull up. Will, you showed a video with me the other day for another gentleman we're going to have on the podcast. He was kind of talking about what was going on in, I want to say Del Rio, Texas. A gentleman gets out of his car and
Plano,
and it's like the mindset. What mindset for probably us three here? Like, I have to put myself in check. Like, I'm not in combat anymore. I can't just pull my gun because this jackass is, he may have threatened me, but it's not a threat where it's like,
it's not a deadly threat. Yeah.
So, that mindset of when he pulled the gun, here, and it's, I think everyone, you're going to know. You don't just pull the gun out because somebody's talking trash to you or this or that. Like, you're going to know when your life's threatened. And having training from John and, Team SOB, that's that mindset that you got to get into, and that proficiency of, where do you keep the gun?
Look, I always say this, ask yourself this question. Is this a death sentence for the other person? Right? So you're in a gas station's being robbed, right? Let's say you're with your family, you got little kids, you're in there. Dude doesn't mess with you, just goes for the register. Okay. Ask yourself, is this a death sentence for this guy? Because he took the register, didn't fuck with no one?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a death sentence. Now, same situation, dude comes in, he's about to do harm to someone's kid or wife. Is this a death sentence, right? Because if you're saving lives, then this is a question to ask. So I always ask, and you're asking yourself, is this a death sentence for this human being? And And if the answer is yes, fucking go now, act now before people get hurt, right?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, no matter how fucked up it is, or no matter how much you got to bite your lip or just fucking do nothing is sometimes a better answer, right? And so I always tell people that question. Ask if this is a death sentence. I mean, but you could do this as a law enforcement officer also. I mean, think about, hey, you pull a knife on me, is that deadly? Is this a death sentence? Fuck yeah, you ain't stabbed. I don't want to get stabbed. You know what I mean? So I think anyone could ask themselves that question. In this situation, what is the situation? Is this a death sentence?
Yeah, I think that's a great point of view. And I wish more CCW classes, and I have a buddy who teaches it, but he does a twist on it. He takes you have to show up, I think, with 3 or 4 real life cases of when the average Joe pulled a gun and use it, and good ones and bad ones, and having those discussions of when is it appropriate. Because if you were to ask me hey, if some dude showed up in a gas station and just went for my thing is if he went to the register, but if he had a gun in his hand and was pointing it at the dude, I'd probably smoke the guy. But knowing that and knowing my mentality too is also, what's it going to cost? So is it a death sentence? And then a lot of people don't realize what's it going to cost you? Even if you're 100% right, the police clear you, that family, what we're seeing more and more today, I don't know if you've seen this Shrek at all, is they're suing the families now.
Yeah.
You'll have some creep break into a house.
Civil liability, yeah.
So the civil liability.
Yeah,
so,
most people only think through the criminal aspect because they don't want to go to federal pen for the rest of their life, right? But there's also the civil aspect. Look, I would also say this is pulling that trigger is going to ruin 3 to 5 years of your life. If you can afford that, fucking rock on, right?
Yeah.
If you can't afford that, meaning you have little kids, they need food, you have to work, you can't be going to court, right?
So that, there's the USCCA, the United States Concealed Carry Association, and you can get insurance. But that's not cheap either, I think it covers you up to $1 million, but read the fine print. I don't have it. because like Shrek said, like
I would tell you this about any CCW insurance. This would be just my 2 cents. I've talked to guys that run these. I know guys that run these. Here's my 2 cents on it. Okay, ask yourself, is this a death sentence for this person? And do I want the next 5 years of my life ruined? If the answer is yes, right, you ain't going to need CCW insurance because you're going to walk. If the answer is no, you might need, and you do something anyway, you might need this insurance. So
yeah.
I would say this, the average person, I don't feel needs the insurance. Now, the guy who's on the internet, like, I'm going to burn this fool down next time I'm at the 7-Eleven and he talks about the juice, you might need it. I'm just throwing it out there, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not for or against. I'm more who needs it, who don't, right? I don't do CCW insurance. But I don't plan. I promised myself when I retired I wouldn't kill anyone else. Now there's days I have bit my lip and wanted to take that. I made myself one fucking promise. Like there's days where I want to take it back, man. But like so I don't.
Yeah, I'm there with you, man.
I don't think most people go out well. I would hope that most people, especially once you're retired and out of that community, that you don't go out with the mindset you're going to kill somebody. So
yeah.
I mean, we joked around. Like, hey,
it happens. Like, I'm 70 and it happens. Like, so be it. I won't give a fuck. I'm used to it. But I just made myself a promise when I retired. I try to be a better person.
Yeah. Yeah, I know as a police officer, none of the guys I worked with or girls, none of us were out there. Oh, I hope I get to smoke somebody today. I mean, that was the last thing we ever wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, I would also say this for law enforcement officers, if that's your mindset. Like I see this on videos all the time. First thing cop does, he gets on the scene, he pulls his gun out. You left no escalation. The only thing that's going to happen is you have to back down.
You're going from the lowest to the highest. That's just a bad mindset to go to if you're unless you, I mean, obviously there's times that warrant having it out,
but you gave him an ultimatum.
There's that. Yeah.
It's like a parent, right? I mean, shoot, I'll tell a bad story here. Not a proudest moment. I got my ass chewed on the team. But I beat up a junior kid on my team in combat. The dude wasn't listening, but I told him like multiple times, like, hey man, you do this, I'm going to do this, like gave him the 3 warnings. And I remember like he did it again. And I'm like, crap, he just called my bluff. So now I have to punch him. I literally have to punch him because I said, if you did this is what I'm going to do. And he's done it multiple times. So he's called my bluff. And so I think like, Shrek, you're saying once you pull that gun, that's it. You gave an ultimatum. You're
going to have to de-escalate yourself to find out where this situation escalates to.
Well, I know when it's changed over the last, almost 10 years now since I've been retired. De-escalation wasn't as stressed as now, obviously, because everything's going on in the country. De-escalation is definitely way out there in front more. A lot of officers, they don't know how to de-escalate. Once you reach that top portion, where do you go from there? So it's they're not trained to de-escalate back down. A lot of them. Well, it's becoming more relevant or more now that people are getting trained how to do it. Back when I was in, it wasn't very often that people were trained that way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I also say this about de-escalation is, with de-escalating or de-escalation techniques, right? You're not going to get the benefit out of de-escalation techniques if the officer has fear. Yeah. Right? If an officer is confident with a firearm, confident in a scrap or tussle, you don't got to be the best, but you just you're tough enough where someone ain't just fucking clobbing me over the head walking away, right? When you're confident in all those, then de-escalation gets a lot easier because you'll walk up into a situation like, what's up? Like, I'm not scared of this, right? Yeah. So fear is always what jumps the escalation train. Yep. But fear also, if you have it, it's going to be hard to de-escalate. Yep. Super hard, right? Like, so
I don't know if you notice that in the teams. The younger guys. I remember like being the young dude, like my first trip to Afghanistan, right? Like the fear, like. It reminded me of Black Hawk Down the first time, like we got in a huge gunfight. Like I'm trying to get as small as an ant, right? I remember looking up like an old Ranger back guy, an old unit dude, and on my team. They're both retired now, and they're just kind of like standing there. And it reminded me of like Black Hawk Down of that major when he's like, "Oh, they're shooting at me." He's like, "Shoot back,"
Yeah.
And I remember just that I think the younger and the lack of confidence, that fear you're talking about, right? It makes you, as you get that confidence, you can adjust and handle and see the situation a lot more clear.
Wow.
And I think that's a great point with our law enforcement. How many of their budgets are getting slashed? What training are they getting? Are they getting that firearms training? I think the FBI does it every quarter. I think for a local cop, was it every year, every 6 months?
Yeah,
my department, we only did yearly qualifications, unless you're at SWAT, which was twice a year.
Yeah.
Which is outrageous to me.
Yeah. Now with ammo shortages, like it's just on hold indefinitely till we can get bullets.
So let's talk about, like we talked about ammo shortages and we talked a little bit about training.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, when I've gone around training big Army units, they just want to shoot as much ammo as possible because they think that is the answer. And I try to tell them, like, look, you realize, like, we do dry firing for like 2-3 days straight before ever one round goes down range. They think we're BSing them. Like, no, that's not true. No way. Like, you guys shoot all the time. We do after we go through, this dry fire phase. So what are some things, with ammunition being the cost that they are and the shortages that are out there, that you recommend for people to do?
Oh, man. So this is interesting. I do this almost every day. I online dry fire with people, right? So the way it works is you buy, and I do all my online dry fire students are different, from carpenters to lawyers. But anyway, they'll buy an hour of my time, and then maybe once a week we'll schedule a 20-minute or 15-minute block, and you dry fire. I watch you. I give you a couple drills. We watch what you do, and then I say, okay, before the next time, practice these things, work on this, whatever we seen. Right. And then, 2 weeks later, we jump on another one. You're dry firing. I'm like, dang, you've been hustling it because you're killing it right now. Okay, now let's tweak these couple things or do this, or I'll give you a new drill or skill to work. Right. So I online train with people from you name it, from the single mom at home during the day. I train a lot of them, you name it. I train online with people. And I think it's the best way. I mean, because think about this, if you had, look, technology is great. When it doesn't work, it sucks. And I'm an old school guy. I don't believe in any of this shit anyway. However, like, if it does make shit easier for me, like, why wouldn't I use it? Right. So imagine having me on the other end of a FaceTime or whatever you call the video stuff, and you're dry fire, and then I can just kind of look at what you do and be like, hey, do these things a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
I give lectures also, another way, right? Like, matter of fact, I'm giving a lecture tonight. It's on pistol reloads. This is the third night where it's the practical exercise. We're all actually talk guys through reloads tonight, but I give a lot of lectures too. The lectures are really popular because I don't have time in a class to tell you everything I know about a reload. Right? In a class, I'll show you the reload. We might talk about it for a few minutes, but then we got to get to reloading. Makes sense?
Yeah.
The lectures, over 3 nights, I talk about the reload. Night one, yesterday or the day before, I just, like, in thinking about reloads, like, I realized there's no really defined terms with a reload. You know what I mean? Like, what could happen? Mm-hmm. What happens? Is a slide lock to the rear, or is it forward? Is it right? So, in giving these lectures, I can go into so much little detail, right? And in a live forum, guys can ask me questions. So the lectures are really good for the answers, but all of it is just, in being a member, or just, even if you're on the fringes of Team SOB, if you're a new shooter, you'll see all this stuff, man. And then this whole year, I've kind of dedicated to, look, I think I have about 475 videos on the membership site. And I think 289 or almost 300 are showing right now. and some are from the past. We moved them over, and we're constantly reshuffling these. But of all my videos, I didn't really have beginner stuff to where, like, if you go to the gun shop, how do you size it in your hand, right? Like, so because of, the single moms and all the new people who never needed a gun before, but now feel like they need a gun. And I'm not saying none of that's justified, because it is, man.
Mhm.
Like, it is justified. Defunding the police and rioting's commonplace now. So I had to make a whole series for those people, and we've been doing that all year. So, hey, if you're a new shooter, like, we put out a ton of videos just for you, right? You could go through all those videos, maybe do a dry fire coaching with me,
Yeah.
and you will be as proficient as probably the 90% of the people out there.
I would say, like, look, someone like me who used to shoot all the time, I've gone hunting. I go hunting once a year out in Texas. And other than that, I really don't shoot anymore. I stopped dry firing. I stopped doing a lot of things. I'd be atrocious right now. And I think a lot of people don't realize, like, shooting, I like to compare shooting to golf. The fundamentals of golf and the fundamentals of shooting are pretty similar. If you stop playing golf and you stop going to your, taking a lesson every once in a while just to refresh and keep it up, you're going to lose those skill sets. And the shooting is the exact same. If I went out and shot pistol, long gun, a little different, but pistol right now, you would see, it'll look like I was shooting a shotgun right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say this with guns is, if you had it once, you're more than likely going to have it again if you need it, right? If you never had it, it ain't coming to you in the worst situation of your life, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you talk to people about, like, concealed carry, where to carry it,
Yeah.
And that's a question I get a lot too.
So I do a lot of concealed carry stuff. I make all my own holsters, right? And these holsters were, oh man, decades. Like in the unit, I could go tell the credit card kid, go get me 20 holsters.
Yep.
He'll come back with 20 holsters, and it'll be like, shit. These are all shit. Okay, now I got 4 left that I might use. Not sure about this one. All right, I'll try these 3.
Yeah.
I break them all by the end of the week. Like, I need 3 more, right? So I developed my own holster. Once I developed it, had a guy make it for me. It's the only ones I used, and it's what I make and sell now. But what I tell people all the time is, there's a couple decent things that are better than others for concealed carry. On the hip, if you wear it, like, I don't know, what's that, the 4 o'clock on your hip for righty, what it would be, maybe 7, 8 o'clock for lefty. This is really good for being in a vehicle. On your hip is great for being in a vehicle. The gun's secured, yet you could still probably get to it, right? So a lot of people carry on the hip, think that's natural, right? Also, appendix. I know the internet has a love-hate relationship with appendix, and I know guys out there that are like, you ain't doing no appendix in my classes, you'll shoot your dick off. Note to self, I've never seen anyone get their dick shot. I don't know if that's true or not. I have never seen it. But appendix is a real good place if you're going to be up walking around.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what I do is what I call smart carry. Like, I'm in my truck. I got the gun on my hip. I jump out of my truck with my door open under my shirt. I shift it around to appendix.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm walking around. Now I go back into my truck underneath my shirt. I move my holster back to my hip. Yep. I call that smart carry. I'm all for smart carry in a lot of ways, right? Because there could be, and if you knew the situations that you might get into, there might be a best place to carry the gun, right? And that's why a lot of cops used to wear ankle holsters, because they're sitting in a car all day.
Yep.
That's almost easier to get the ankle in older cars than it would be going for a hip or a rifle.
Especially when you start talking about that triple retention holsters and stuff like that, and getting caught on the seatbelt and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, guys would wear ankle holsters, one on each ankle. And they pull their pants up a little bit when they're sitting in the car, and then they're just like, whoop, it's easier to get than on their body, right? So if you knew the situations you were going to be in, you could probably prep and put the gun in a better place where as this unfolds, this is now when I get it, right? If you don't know those things, I kind of do smart carry, one or the other. I also know that people not all people that come to my classes are comfortable with carrying with a round in the chamber. This is very common, right? My wife doesn't like carrying a round in the chamber. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. However, if you're going to do this, I'll show you a draw stroke, and it's on the website, right? I'll show you 3 steps. One of those steps is racking the slide so you can shoot it as you're drawing the gun, right? So, another big one is the chamber being loaded. Like, I don't care if it's loaded, unloaded, as long as there's a magazine and there's some bullets in it and it's near the gun, I could figure this out. You know what I mean? I'll be just fine. However, some people, they round in the chamber, which I think, look, if you're going to carry a gun, why rack it? Just point and shoot and be careful. However, some people don't do that. So I show them a rack and shoot as well.
Yeah. I mean, I get the same thing. Like, why do you carry one? I'm like, because I trust myself, because this is how I've trained. And I think, for all of us here, it's probably the same way. But someone who hasn't trained or doesn't understand it, having a round in the chamber is scary to them. But like you just said, that's fine. But as you train, make sure you're training to rack that as your process, as you're grabbing your gun and getting ready to use it. Like, I don't know how many videos, and I'm sure you guys have all seen them, where people don't train with racking it. They don't carry one in the chamber, and they go to use it. And it's like, we all know this. Milliseconds matters in a gunfight. Yeah. When you have to use that, the milliseconds matter.
Yeah. I'd also say this is when a guy comes to my class and he tells me, like, for the first video, he's not comfortable with a round in the chamber, I'll be like, okay, draw, rack, and shoot. And I show him how. Like, most guys in the class or girls are like watching, like, what? Like, oh, that's how you do that? Oh, that's so easy. Like they don't even know, right? Because, well, you should just, you should always just carry a gun loaded. Oh, you don't, and then there's the bullying part of the no round. Oh, you don't carry with a round in the chamber. Like, what's wrong with you, right? And it's like, at least they have a gun, man. Like, that's,
I agree.
Having is better than not.
Yeah, whatever they're comfortable with.
And then just train with whether you have one in or have. My wife is just like your wife. We have 3 little boys. My youngest is like 3.5. And I'm like, hey, you're going to carry your gun in that little purse, diaper bag thingy all the time. We live in a really safe area, but there's kooks everywhere, you know?
Yeah. Hey, my wife, once in a while, I'll be like, you got a gun on you? And she'll have it on her body appendix. And she'll be in her like dress work clothes. And I'll be like, didn't see that coming this morning. Good job.
That's awesome, though, right? Like I'm proud of my wife. I'm like, hey, we'll go to church. Like, hey, you got the gun in the bag? She's like, yeah. I'm like, good girl.
Yeah. And my wife, because she works, like, there's certain things she does for work. I got her a tuckable holster that I make. Like, she'll wear her dress clothes and she'll have a gun appendix because, like, hey, it's somewhere she never been or she doesn't know, right? And, in normal day-to-day travels, like, how close do you need a gun? I would say it should always be on your body, but if you just had one in your purse, it's better than not, I mean? And I'm always kind of proud. Once in a while I'll ask, and she'll just kind of like mad dog me, have it like appendix.
I like the appendix style. Unfortunately, over the years, my stomach has protruded a little bit, and it's not as comfortable when I sit down. I like that smart carry.
Hey, come on. No, that's dad bod shit. Look, you don't do the gun center line anymore. Right? Yeah. You just do it in front of the
head. It's the roundabout, man.
At a little bit of an angle.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's dad bod shit. I teach that every day, man. Yeah. I'm like, man, I got a belly. I'm like, move that thing over a little bit, son. And then he's like, dang, I'm working around my fat with this. Like, this is amazing.
Love it, man.
Yeah, I do it too. Everyone's got it. You know what I mean? Like, this ain't fucking CrossFit games with guns. This is like dad bods is what it really is.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome, man. Shrek, how about you tell our listeners or viewers out there where they can find you? I know Will had SOBtactical.com up there on the screen. Yep. And then, if our listeners and viewers out there, if you have any questions, hit us up. We'll get you guys in touch with Shrek and SOB Tactical. But if you want them on again, if you guys are listeners and viewers out there, write us questions of, specific topics you want us to hit with them next time that we have them on. So, Shrek, go ahead and let our listeners and viewers know where to find you.
My website's SOB Tactical. Scenario 1 is going to be defend your bedroom, right? You hear something in the middle of the night, you grab your gun, and you are only defending your bedroom. As he moved in, you collapsed down, you stayed deep in the room. A lot of the stuff went really well. Instagram, Facebook, all the social medias is SOB Tactical as well. The membership site is in iTunes and the Google Play Store for Android, right? You can get the app for free from iTunes or the Google Play Store, and you can watch all the free content on the app, or you could get the membership. And that's where all the training videos are, like the mindset, the experience. I mean, I already said, I think there's almost probably 300 showing right now. I don't know how many, probably more than 100 of those are just free videos. I used to do pretty cool. I used to do Trigger Time TV, and I got all my videos I did on Trigger Time TV. We just put up like season 8, which was like 2014, like the first time I actually like made videos where like my cowboy hat, kind of ridiculous, but I was just having fun. But people think it's weird. I don't care. There's a membership site. You become a member. The member's $14.99 a month or $149 a year. We put out probably. Oh man, we probably put out 4 to 8 videos a week. So Monday you'll get a training video. Thursday are generally live fire type drills and stuff. All the new shooter stuff we've been putting it on Monday this year. And then, I also do the booze and views or booze and news, but you can't say that and you can't put that on social media anymore.
Yeah.
That's on there. Guys love watching that. I'm always talking about something funny. So and then look, if you have any questions for me, right? SOB Tactical, my email's on the website. We're really easy to get a hold of. If you need any help, just hit me up, man. And thanks for having me, guys.
Not too easy, man. Love to have you again.
Yeah, let's do this again, man. Right?
Yeah.
For sure,
definitely.
right? And I agree with you. Like if anyone sent me specific questions, because I do a home defense package, but it's like you said, it's the basics and it's the mindset of defending the home, right? So if you had some more specific questions, I'd love to answer them for some folks. That'd be great.
Yeah. Awesome. Your app is super easy to use. I have it on my phone.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hey, are you coming to the members event this year then?
I probably will. Yeah.
Gotta be there.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude,
for sure.
Hey, I'm telling you, this is such a great time. It's kind of crazy. I wanted to start putting out shooting videos, and I ended up with my own, like, I don't know. It's a community. What else do you call it, man? And dude, I'm telling you, the yearly events, look, you guys are both invited. Come out.
Thank you.
All the guys would love to talk to you. I normally cater. It's 24 hours. We normally do a little bit of shooting, and then we drink the rest of the night, bonfire it, eat some good food, and then we're out the next day. But you guys,
that might be a good little podcast too to do.
What's
live.
That?
Yeah, like a live podcast.
A live podcast out there, right?
Dude, come on.
I think that'd be awesome. So
I think that sounds great, man.
Yeah, awesome, man. Shrek, man, totally appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, thank you. Will, you want to wrap it up, man?
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. You already gave your Instagram, Facebook. We appreciate everything. We're going to share it, and if you don't mind sharing it for us. And next week we have Scott Mann coming on. It's going to be a good episode. appreciate everything you've done, and I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks,
guys,
bud.
hit me up. I'm in.
For sure.